In a game of Mobile Legends, being able to use different heroes is truly an advantage, and it is a player's advantage if they will learn to use a specific hero efficiently. So for today's video, we will teach you some essential tips and tricks on how to use one of the most weird assassins in the game, Helcurt. My name is Brian and this is Yugatech Gaming. Some of you already knew Helcurt because maybe you already faced him in battle, or you have been teamed up with him. And I guess that you already knew that he is a big problem if he is in your opponent's team. Helcurt is one of the scariest heroes in the game you could encounter. He is an assassin that has faction in many ways and has unquestionable abilities. He is such a great asset if you would have him in your team. So it is your advantage as a player if you would know the effective way of using him. Let's start and talk about his background story. In the historical records of the Land of Dawn, there is said to be a mysterious race who sacrificed their souls to the ruler of the Abyss in exchange for great power. Their bodies were transformed using dark magic, granting them the ability to swallow the light and travel through space in just a blink of an eye, allowing them to surprise their enemies with deadly sneak attacks, and that is the most terrifying thing about them. For those unfortunate enough to come into contact with this poison would soon be saying their last words. This is what called the ultimate demise of this race. In the annals, the specifics of how this race was wiped out are not made clear, but it is certain that this is a terrifying race definitely walk upon the Land of Dawn. Since their extinction, humanity has progressed prosperously. The history books could not predict that one day these creatures would slowly creep out of the shadow once more. Next, let's talk about what are the tasks if you play Helcurt. The first task that I will give you is the main task of an assassin, and that is to kill enemies. Some of you will say that this task is difficult, but if you would be familiar with using Helcurt, this task will become an easy job for you. Like most of the assassin heroes, Helcurt is designed to kill enemies. After you watch this video, I hope that killing will eventually become an easy job for you if you would use Helcurt. Next is to help your teammates using his ultimate skill. But this task is a significant one because it can be the most important thing Helcurt can do to your team to win. Lastly is to push enemy turrets. Helcurt is a hero that has a massive damage, especially when he's fully equipped with physical attack items. This ability that he has can be a great advantage of him in terms of destroying towers of the enemies. So I would suggest that if you use Helcurt in the game and you have the opportunity to push turrets, go and take advantage of it. Next, let's talk about Helcurt's best preparation. Let's begin with the spells. Selecting a spell for Helcurt is quite fixed because this spell is an excellent combo to his skills for him to kill enemies. I highly suggest that you pick Petrify if you use Helcurt for you to maximize his ability to kill enemies. Petrify spell will allow him to stun enemies for 0.7 seconds, and this minisecond is just enough for him to target his enemy and throw his skills at them. In that way, he could burst down the enemies and kill them in no time. I would show you later on how this Petrify will be an additional combo for him. Next is the useful emblem configuration when you choose Helcurt. I personally use this emblem configuration with level 3 agility, level 3 invasion, and high and dry talent. This setup will give him extra movement speed, and it is crucial for him because he needs to be fast when he will ambush some of his enemies or when he will push some turrets of the enemies. Also, this emblem will give him additional physical penetration that will make him more useful when it comes to damage dealing, especially to the enemies that have high durability. In addition to that, high and dry for the talent. This talent will help him to become unstoppable in terms of killing enemies alone without the help of his teammates. Most of the time, when you use Helcurt, you will be ambushing enemies alone, and this talent will help him to keep up the pace when he's killing enemies because this will make his damage increase by 6% on the enemy hero when he's the only nearby hero. Now let's talk about Helcurt's core items. I have 4 core items for Helcurt. The first one is the sweep boots. This one will be the best boots you can use for Helcurt because he needs to be fast not just by moving but also in his attacks. And these boots will give him those 2 abilities. Next is the Raptor Machete. I'm encouraging you to build this item as early as you can, or maybe just buy the Nimble Blade first. This item will give you additional massive damage whenever you kill a monster. This damage can stack up to 10 times for the Nimble Blade and 15 times for the Raptor Machete. Next is the Blade of Despair. This item will give a massive 170 points of physical damage. In addition to that, this item will also give him an extra 5% of movement speed. Helcurt's second skill can be so powerful when he already has a lot of damage, so these items will make him more powerful. And lastly, for his core items, is the Endless Battle. This item has a lot of stats that can make Helcurt more deadly when he wants to kill a specific hero. Aside from that, this item will be his source of life-stealing ability. And now, let's talk about Helcurt's alternative items. First is the most interesting one, the Fleeting Time. Some of you will wonder why a magic item will be a recommended item for Helcurt that is best known for relying on his physical damage. This item will make a good fit for his ultimate skill. After an assist or elimination, the ultimate skill cooldown will immediately be reduced by 30%. That being said, every time Helcurt will use his ultimate skill and kill an enemy or have an assist, his ultimate cooldown will be reduced massively, and you can use his ultimate skill more often. In that way, it is like a blackout game where Helcurt can dominate. Next is the Wind of Nature. This item will be a good counter if you have many opponents that rely on their physical damage. This item will be a good counter if you have many opponents that rely on their physical damage. This item has an active skill that whenever you use it, you will be immune to all physical damage for 2 seconds. And by the way, this item is designed for marksman, and if you use this when you use Helcurt, this has a slight disadvantage because it would only last for half the duration, and that is 1 second only. But don't underestimate this item. This can be the difference between winning and losing if you use it in proper timing. Next is the alternative defense items when it comes to the late game. First is the most important item that you must have when it comes to the late game, and that is Immortality. I assume that most of you already knew this item. Before, this is a magic resistance defense item, but now, it is already a physical defense item. This item is very crucial when it comes to the later part of the game because it can make you resurrect after you got killed. But take note that when you resurrect, you will only have 15% of your max HP as your health and a shield that can absorb 300 to 1000 points of damage. Although this item has a long cooldown duration, this item is a perfect late game item for all the heroes. Next is the Brute Force Breastplate. This item will give you plus 770 points of health and 45 points of physical defense. Also, this has a passive effect that after you cast a skill or use your basic attack, it will increase your movement speed, physical defense, and magic defense by 3%, 4%, and 4% respectively. It can stack up to 5 times that can last for 4 seconds. This is a great item for Helcurt to give him more durability for him to be able to resist the damages of his enemies. Plus, this will also be very beneficial to him because of the additional movement speed. Last is the Athena Shield. This item will give massive stats of 900 points of health, 62 points of magic defense, and 20 points of HP regeneration. That's a lot. So if you have enemies that rely on their magic damage, this is a perfect item to counter them. This item will also give you a shield that can absorb 170 to 1150 points of damage every 30 seconds. And the good thing about this shield is that it grows as the game goes on. But take note that whenever you will face Esmeralda and Harit, don't build this item because they will just steal your shield. That's a tip for you guys. Next, let's talk about the effective lane for Helcurt. Laning of Helcurt is somewhat situational. He can go alone in the top lane or be with the tank or support in the bottom lane. It will depend whether you have a marksman ally that cannot take the lane alone. And if you have one, you must adjust and take the top lane alone. Don't be nervous when you have to take the lane alone when you use Helcurt. Although Helcurt does not have enough mobility to escape possible ambushes, he has enough power to fight back and to silence his enemies using his first skill. And of course, his passive. In that case, he could not get easily killed by enemies. But of course, you must always be cautious when farming alone. And if you don't have marksman in your team, or you have marksman that can take the lane alone like Claude, I highly recommend that you go to the bottom lane where a support or tank will assist you in farming well and killing enemies. Now let's talk about Helcurt's skills. Let's first talk about his passive skill. Enemies who will cast around Helcurt are silenced for 1.5 seconds if their skills deal damage to him. This effect has a cooldown duration of 4 seconds on every one target. This passive skill will help him to be more mobile when enemies try to kill him. Next is Helcurt's first skill, the Shadow Transition. Helcurt teleports to a specific target location and deals 150 points of damage plus 70% of his total physical attack damage to enemies within the area. This skill will silence the enemies in the area for 1.5 seconds. Using this skill after Dying Eye falls will also inflict an extra slow effect of 40% on enemies that will be hit by these skills. Also, the area of effect will increase. Next, the Deadly Stinger. Aside from his basic physical attacks, this skill is the very reason Why Helcurt can deal a lot of damage. This skill has a passive effect that each basic attacks grant him 1 deadly poison stinger, and up to 5 stingers can be stored. This effect can last up to 8 seconds, and every after 8 seconds, the number of stingers will decrease if you don't attack or use the skill. This skill also has an active effect. Helcurt fire deadly poison stingers forward to a specified direction, each dealing 250 points of physical damage plus 100 points of extra physical attack points of his total damage. Lastly, for his skills, is his ultimate skill, the Dark Knight Falls. This skill has a passive effect that will permanently increase his attack speed by 10%. Aside from that, this skill has an active effect. Helcurt summons the Knight, reducing the vision range of all the enemy heroes and depriving their sight of allies for 3.5 seconds, while increasing his attack speed by 10% and movement speed by 65% for 8 seconds. During the night, the number of stingers stored won't decrease. This skill is the most valuable skill of Helcurt he can give to a team. This skill will allow him to kill enemies without getting help from their teammates. Now, let's talk about his combos. Combos of Helcurt is quite easy than the other assassins in the game. You just have to stack as many deadly poison stinger as possible. And when you have enough stack, you can just use his first skill to your specified target and blast those deadly stingers to that enemy. If your enemy has excellent mobility, this is the time where you will use the recommended spell Petrify. After you jump to a specific enemy, of course, the first thing that will come to their mind is to escape. And that is the time you will use the Petrify spell for them to be stunned for a short time for you to be able to hit them with your deadly stingers. And by the way, you can use this combo after activating the Dark Knight Falls. In that way, you could kill your specified target easily without the help of their teammates. That is the only combo for Helcurt, but again, don't underestimate him because he can quickly kill you in no time. Now let's talk about heroes that can counter Helcurt. Countering Helcurt is a tough thing to do, but the heroes that come to my mind when countering Helcurt are Akai and Diggy. Akai can counter Helcurt because of his ultimate skill that can control Helcurt. Aside from that, Helcurt cannot cancel Akai's ultimate by his passive skill. Also Diggy. Helcurt can be a lot of problems in a team fights, but Diggy can save your team in team fights whenever you have Helcurt as your opponent. He can use his ultimate skill that will debuff you and your nearby ally from every crowd control skill and slow effects of the enemies, including Helcurt's slow and silence. Aside from Akai and Diggy, heroes that can resist his combos damage can be a good counter for Helcurt. The best example for that is heroes like Tamus and Johed. And now, the heroes that Helcurt can counter. There are a lot of heroes that Helcurt can counter, but the most significant heroes that Helcurt can counter are Fanny and Lunox. They cannot escape when Helcurt has silenced them. Also, the heroes that don't have excellent mobility, and heroes that are squishy like Marksman, Mage, and support heroes. Now let's talk about the tips when you play Helcurt. The first tip that I will give you is to use your ultimate skill in an effective manner. Use it whenever there is a clash, and when you are away from your teammate. In that way, you can help them by making your enemy's vision reduced. Aside from that, it can give you extra gold if you use it, and your enemies have killed some of the enemies. It is considered as an assist for you. Also, you can use your ultimate skill to take advantage when your enemies are far from you. You can use it to push the turrets or to steal the resources without them knowing. Next is that you should focus on farming in the early game. Helcurt can indeed be so dominant in the game when he already has many items that will give him massive damage to kill enemies. So in order to do that, you have to farm well in the early game. Also, you have to be cautious when farming because most of the players knew that Helcurt can be a big problem in the late game, so they would ambush you and kill you as early as possible. Last but not least is you should be smart in a team fight. What I mean is make your every dive in clash worth it. Again, Helcurt can kill enemy heroes with just a blink of an eye, and it is a must that you should prioritize the hero of the enemy that deals a lot of damage. In that case, even if you get killed in the clash, you've already completed the most crucial task that you have to do, and that can lead to the victory of your team. So in general, Helcurt can be so powerful and have the ability to dominate the game or carry his team to win if you would know how to play him effectively. He is one of the scariest heroes in the game for a reason. And that's it. These are just some basic tips and tricks on how to play Helcurt effectively. But to be good at this kind of hero, you will definitely need more practice. I hope you learned a lot in this video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to our channel for more content, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any future uploads, and be sure to visit yugatech.com/gaming for more news, tips, and tricks. This has been Brian, and see you again in the next one.